Welcome to Confession Chronicles, a platform for sharing poignant stories full of unexpected twists, deep emotions, and hidden facts. These stories evoke emotion, provoke thought, and occasionally change our worldview. Today, I want to share my personal story. It is a subject that continues to bother me and to weigh on my heart whenever I speak about it. I am Camilla, a stepmother approaching my 40th birthday. This is the story of how my life, once full of hope and promise, turned into a nightmare I never saw coming. Be sure to subscribe to my channel so I can continue to bring you more fascinating true stories like this one. And don't forget to watch this video to the end and like it, because this story is going to be incredibly interesting. Please hit the like button to show your support. It all started so innocently, so normally, like any other day in my life. I was happily married to Michelson, a man I loved very much, who had 2 children from a previous marriage, Daniel, who was 20, and Michael, who was 18. I always knew that being a stepmother would come with its challenges, but I also thought that in time it would all work itself out. The relationship between us was a little distant, but that was natural. I was the new woman in their lives, and I understood the importance of giving them space and letting them adjust to the changes in their family. Our relationship was dynamic by nature. Michelson and I had been together for a while, but it wasn't always easy to find the right balance. That afternoon, Michelson was away on a business trip, leaving me and his 2 sons at home. But I didn't think there was anything unusual about it. In fact, I experienced an unusual calm as I stood in the kitchen preparing dinner, the only sounds permeating the room being the clatter of cutlery as I diced vegetables and the simmering of the stew pot on the stove. The house was quiet and serene, giving me an unusual sense of comfort in the isolation. The silence was almost overwhelming, and I took in the warm, rich aroma of the stew, anticipating a delicious meal for everyone when they returned. Suddenly I heard rapid footsteps from upstairs. Before I could turn around, Daniel burst through the kitchen door, his face ashen and his eyes filled with terror. "Mother, please come up here right away. Michael is dying." His voice carried both urgency and sorrow. The words sent a shiver down my spine. I was oblivious to the situation. My heart raced as the words echoed in my head. "What do you mean? What is the situation with Michael? Has he had an accident? Is he unwell?" Questions flooded my head. My breath quickened and I had no time to think. Without a doubt, I left all my belongings, my knife, the chopping board, everything, and followed Daniel. We climbed quickly, almost in a haze, my legs pushing me up the stairs, my pulse racing in my chest. Daniel led the way, his expression somber with concern, his steps quick and echoing. I struggled to breathe as fear and confusion clouded my thoughts. Arriving at Michael's room, I had no idea what to expect. However, nothing could have prepared me for the sight that greeted me when the door opened. There, in the center of the room, was Michael. He was completely naked, his slender form illuminated by the soft light filtering through the window. He showed no smile of happiness or relief. There was no anguish or terror in his gaze. Rather, there was a disturbing, almost demonic quality to his smile. I stood motionless, unable to comprehend what I was witnessing. It was a spectacle that froze my heart, held my breath, and immobilized my body, unable to comprehend. "Michael, what is your current activity?" I stammered, my voice trembling with confusion. I tried to avert my gaze, but the image seemed to be inscribed, etched in my memory. Part of me wanted to scream, to flee, to do something, but my body remained unresponsive. Before I could formulate my thoughts, Michael quickly crossed the room, grabbed my hand and pulled me in. His actions were assertive and deliberate. "Michael, stop!" I tried to pull away, but it felt as if my body was immobilized and his grip was too strong. The door clicked shut behind me, prompting a panicked turn. Daniel blocked the doorway, his gaze reflecting a mixture of perplexity and a more sinister emotion that made me feel uneasy. He seemed to be torn between one incomprehensible thing and something far more disturbing. "Daniel, are the door. What is happening? What is the reason? Are you doing this?" I tried to keep my composure, but my voice trembled with fear. I longed to shout for answers, but I was overwhelmed by the oppressive weight of uncertainty. Just as I was about to take control of the situation, an unexpected weight was placed on my shoulders from behind. Daniel was close, his breath warm against my ear. His hands cupped my shoulders delicately, but there was a power in them that I could not escape. A shiver ran down my spine as he whispered, "Stepmother, we cannot bear to see you with—" Michelson's voice was low and scratchy, like a confession. It was as if the universe had stopped spinning, leaving me immobilized and unable to comprehend the meaning of his remarks. "What is the subject of your discussion? I do not understand," I stammered, trying to turn and confront him, but his grip tightened, immobilizing me. His gaze remained fixed on me, devoid of uncertainty or remorse, exuding an unusual sense of determination. At the same time, Michael was inching his way towards us, as if to savor and prolong each moment. The tension in the room escalated as he leaned in, his face just inches from mine. His icy, calculating gaze pierced me as if trying to read my essence. "Mother," Michael murmured, his tone devoid of emotion and feeling, "please indulge us." The words hit me with the force of a physical blow. I felt a constriction in my throat and a tightness in my chest. This could not be happening. It could not be authentic. "It cannot be," I cried inside, but my body remained immobilized. The children I had once nurtured, the children I had, the ones I was trying to protect, were now turning against me. I tried to free myself from their grip, but I remained trapped. Michael was in front of me, Daniel behind me, and two walls confined my space. I found myself with no way to escape. Terror coursed through my body, immobilizing me more and more. "Allow me to leave!" I tried to shout, but my voice wavered, weak and trembling. It was as if my voice had left me, rendering me impotent. Michael flashed a subtle, cunning smile that sent a shiver down my spine. "Mother, do not try to resist," he said, his voice soft but with undeniable authority. "We do not wish to harm you. We simply wish you to understand your importance to us." The words lingered in the atmosphere, oppressive and suffocating. What happened? What was the cause of this event? It was not what I had expected. When I married Michelson, I had no idea that things would escalate to such an extent. The minutes stretched out, and every second became an eternity. I tried to hold on to what was left of my sanity, but it eluded me. I tried to resist and repel it, but my body stopped obeying my commands. My mind and body seemed disconnected. Every touch and movement from them seemed to diminish a part of me. I could feel my resistance weakening, diminishing. I experienced an inner conflict characterized by deep remorse and humiliation. Dressed in a strange garment, I experienced an inner storm, an uncontrollable tornado. I experienced involuntary physical reactions that frightened me. I was aware that the situation was wrong. I recognized that it crossed every line, but I couldn't stop it. I couldn't escape it. With each passing moment, I felt myself sinking deeper into this chaos, losing more and more of who I was. The principles I had once held so dear were slipping through my fingers, and I was no longer the person I had once been. I was no longer in control. I had become a pawn in their game, a pawn for their desires. The days that followed felt like a blur. Every morning I woke up next to Michelson, his peaceful face a stark contrast to the turmoil raging inside me. His warmth, his trust, everything I had valued in our life together now felt like a cruel joke. I felt trapped in a never-ending cycle of guilt and fear, unable to break free. Every time I looked into his eyes, all I saw was love and trust that I knew I had shattered, and yet I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth. The silence between Michelson and I grew heavier with each passing day. I could no longer look him in the eye without feeling the weight of my deception. I carried my secret like a stone in my chest, heavy and suffocating. The smile that had once come so easily now felt like a mask, hiding the deep sense of shame and fear that had taken root inside me. In the evenings, when Michelson was at work or out with friends, I found myself alone with Michael and Daniel. The house that had once felt like a sanctuary now felt like a prison. Every time I saw them, I could feel their eyes on me, watching me, waiting for the next moment to strike. Their presence was like a shadow hanging over me, making every room feel suffocating. They had taken control of my life in ways I couldn't begin to understand, and with each passing day, their hold on me grew stronger. At first, I tried to resist. I screamed, I pushed, I fought. But it was like trying to stop a tidal wave with a pebble. The more I fought, the more determined they became. It was as if my resistance only fueled their desire, making them bolder and more daring. The moments I once hoped would pass never did. Instead, they became a habit. And I, who had once prided myself on my strength, had become weak, emotionally, mentally, and physically. My mind was screaming at me to stop, to get out, to run, but my body was no longer obeying. The struggle became less about what was happening and more about my own inner conflict. I felt like a prisoner in my own body, as if everything I once believed in was a lie, stripped away. Bit by bit, my own thoughts had become my enemy. Every time I tried to make sense of what was happening, the truth seemed further out of reach, buried under layers of guilt and shame. Sometimes I would look in the mirror, longing to find the person I once aspired to be, only to find a stranger, someone broken and lost, someone who had let it all fade away. My reflection stared back at me with empty eyes, hollow and distant, as if I had long since ceased to exist. I didn't recognize myself, and I didn't know who to turn to. There was no one who could understand the darkness I had fallen into. How could I explain to anyone what had happened? How could I tell Michelson, the man I loved, that the flesh and blood of his son had broken me in ways I could never heal? How could I tell him that I had become their victim, their puppet, controlled by their every command? I couldn't even tell myself what was happening, let alone anyone else. The shame was crushing, and every time I thought about confessing, a voice inside me told me it would be the end of everything. Michelson would never forgive me. Michelson would destroy the life we had built together. Only the ruins of my own mistakes would be left. The weight of this potential immobilized me, making any action impossible. But there were times when the guilt became unbearable. In solitude, I would weep, my tears saturating the pillow as I held it tightly to my chest. I longed to scream and express the fear and anger that had built up inside me, but I was unable to break the oppressive silence that surrounded me. The walls of my own psyche were closing in with each passing day, trapping me in my own silence and guilt. I began to wonder how long I could keep up the facade of normalcy. How many more days could I feign contentment beside Michelson while my mind deteriorated inside? Each night I would lie awake beside him, staring at the ceiling, awaiting the embrace of sleep, only to be tormented by nightmares, visions of the events I had allowed to happen. Michael and Daniel pursued me relentlessly in my dreams, their eyes fixed on me, their voices echoing in my consciousness. I could find no escape, no matter how hard I tried. They were inside me and there was no way of expelling them. I tried. I sought solace in my work and minor distractions, trying to divert my attention from the horror I was enduring, but nothing proved effective. Nothing could hide the reality that I was living a sham. My life, my marriage, everything I held to be true was based on a lie. I had allowed it to happen. I had given in to exploitation, and now there was no escape. I tried to rationalize my thoughts. I convinced myself that I had no alternative and was powerless. Yet I recognized reality. I had allowed it to happen. I had shown weakness, and now I had to face the consequences of my own decisions. How could I confront Michelson? In what way could I do this? How could I tell him the unthinkable? How could I reveal that I had deceived him in the most unfavorable way? I struggled with the idea of revealing my truth to him. An inner voice kept warning me that it was too late. Revealing my secret would have irreparable consequences. No forgiveness, no redemption, only torment and devastation. The prospect of losing him, of losing everything, was unbearable and forced me to keep silent. But I realized that I could not carry this secret forever. Its burden was suffocating. I understood that I had to make a choice and face the truth, no matter how difficult. However, I was uncertain whether I was facing the reality of my actions or the essence of my transformation. What I did understand was that this silence was not a solution. It would ultimately destroy me and everything I held dear. If I failed to articulate my thoughts and regain control of my life, I would face dire consequences. As a result, I would remain forever lost. I seek your help with guidance. Should I reveal all information to Michelson? Should I confess and face the consequences? Or should I remain silent and try to go on living, carrying this burden and hoping that time will bring healing? If you have read this far, please refrain from judgment. I only seek relief and rest. I can no longer carry this burden alone. I seek reassurance that I am not alone in experiencing such profound feelings of disorientation, despair, and entrapment. From my narrative, I have realized that silence only exacerbates grief. It creates more secrets, falsehoods, and agony. I see now that I should have expressed my concerns earlier. I should have faced the truth from the beginning, no matter how difficult. But it is never too late to put things right. I must find the strength to move on, and I will. Regardless of the outcome or repercussions, I will find a method to free myself from this darkness. I will regain my life, my dignity, and my peace. Thank you for your attention. Please spread your reflections and expressions. May they help me to find an exit from this narrative of confessions that culminates here. If you find this story thought-provoking, if you find this content engaging, please support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing your views and opinions. They are very important to us. Please feel free to leave your comments below. Your contributions enable us to continue to provide more stories, facts, and authentic experiences. Thank you and goodbye. See you in the next video.